Okay, so this is my new favorite story. So let's do this thing. Last March, feeling completely burned out from my job, the noise of the city, all of the people, I decided to take a long weekend off and go find myself a cottage in the middle of nowhere where I could read, relax, maybe listen to some music, have a few drinks, and get away from everything for a couple of days. And I found this place up here on the moors, which are these big open spaces with heather growing on them. It was quiet. It was miles from anywhere, and it had pretty much everything I needed. There was an electric fire, a fridge, a kettle, a shower, not like a proper shower, more like a deluge, but a deluge nonetheless. And there were even some fresh eggs left in the fridge by the owner. I was delighted. The only road that went past the cottage was really narrow and winding. To be honest, probably barely wide enough for one car, never mind two. But if I had to sum up the feeling of that place in 3 words, it would definitely be quiet, secluded, and wild. If you've ever seen the Yorkshire Wolds before, you know exactly what I mean. These rolling hills seem to stretch on forever. The roads are tiny. There's no street lamps, and at night the sky just goes on forever. Anyway, after my first night in the cottage, I woke up and thought, right, I'm gonna explore a little bit. I'm gonna walk down this lane and see where it leads. Now, usually when I go walking, I always bring my phone with me because I am quite paranoid about getting lost or injured and no one knowing where I am. And I also like to take photos of things that I think look interesting. But on this occasion, I left my phone at the cottage. I don't really know why. I guess I just wanted to enjoy the peace and quiet. So I set off down the road, and after about half a mile, I came across this bend. Now, this bend was quite a sharp one, and I could unsee what was around it because of all the trees that lined the road. And I remember thinking, oh, it's a shame I didn't bring my phone. I'd love to see if there's anything around this corner, or whether it's just more fields and houses. So I got closer to the bend and I slowed down to see if I could make out what was on the other side. And then I stopped because standing directly in front of me, just at the bend in the road, was a person. Now, this person was dressed all in black, head to toe, black clothing, black shoes, black hat, black gloves, and they were standing still as stone. They weren't moving, they weren't making any noise. They weren't saying anything. They were just standing there, and I just stared at them, mouth agape, thinking, did I just imagine that? Did I really just see a person standing in the middle of nowhere? And then I started walking towards them because I thought, well, maybe if I get a little bit closer, I'll be able to figure out who they are and what they're doing. Because it's weird to stand like that in the middle of a country lane. And the scarier thing for me was that throughout all of this, they hadn't moved. They hadn't said anything. They were still standing perfectly still, motionless. And so I got closer and I started to get a little bit creeped out. And the scarier part was I could unhear my own footsteps because the lane was covered in a thick layer of gravel and it was completely silent. No birds singing, no cars passing, no insects buzzing. It was just the two of us, and I was creeping out. And then when I was probably about 20 yards away from them, they turned their heads slightly to look at me, and then they slowly raised their arm and they waved. And it was at that point that I decided to turn around and run back to the safety of the cottage. As I turned to go, I could have sworn I heard them speak, but it didn't sound like any language that I recognized. And I do want to know whether it was because I was frightened or because I'd left my phone in the cottage, but everything seemed to happen in slow motion. I can remember my legs pumping, my heart beating. I could feel the sweat on my palms and in my armpits, and I kept thinking, why is it so difficult to run? Why is my breathing so heavy? And then I looked over my shoulder again and I saw that the person had begun to move. They were now closer to the road and they were walking towards me. And I remember thinking, if they catch up with me, I don't know what I'll do. I don't know how I'll defend myself. I don't know if I'll be able to fight them off. I don't know if they want to hurt me or whatever. And so I ran faster and I could feel my breath getting heavier and my legs were burning, and I thought, I've got to get out of here. I've got to get back to the safety of the cottage. And then as I got closer, I noticed that the front door wasn't closed properly. It was slightly ajar, and I remember thinking, oh, my bags are still out there. Oh, I've left my phone out there. Oh, I've left my wallet out there. Oh, I need to get back there. But it was too late. I couldn't stop. I couldn't turn around. I had to keep going forward. And then I got to the end of the drive and I turned to the left and started running down the road towards the main road that would take me into town. And then suddenly I heard this voice behind me saying, "Excuse me, excuse me." And I remember thinking, I don't want to turn around. I don't want to see what's there. Don't want to see what's behind me. Please let me just get away from here. And then I ran and I ran and I didn't stop until I got to the main road, and I didn't look back once. I didn't look back until I'd driven home and I was recounting the entire story to my friend. And then he said something that made complete sense. He said, "Why don't you just Google Street View where this cottage is?" And then we did. And as soon as we typed in the name of the road and the house, this image came up, and it was the exact same road. It was the exact same bend in the road, but it was different because there was a person standing at the same bend in the road waving at me. Okay, so I am not sure whether this is some kind of bizarre joke that I've missed or whether I've just imagined the entire thing. But here's the thing. This is the street view from 2015. This is the street view from 2018. And this is the street view from 2021. And the same person has been standing there in the same spot, waving at cars driving past for at least 6 years. This is what happened. I hope you liked that story. If you did, please do leave a like and subscribe for more content. I'll see you next week. Bye.